10 years later, and I still think about it. Even though the truth is worse than any fabrication I've heard from the younger generation, some actually believe this is just an urban legend. What happened to Selena in April of 2008 in the gymnasium of Elizabeth Forward High School is still as fresh in my memory as the shirt I put on today. I remember how we were all forced to see the guidance counselor every day the following week, and some students' parents sought them out real therapy outside of school. I had no use for it because I know no matter how much someone tells you everything will be okay, the world is still a rotten apple infested with hungry maggots. I knew that before the incident occurred, so it's not like I was too jarred after the experience. I'm not saying no one should feel bad for Selena, but I would like to give a little background on the damage she's caused and who she was, just so you all can understand why someone like her got what some may feel like she deserved. I just ask you all to be patient with me as I have a lot to go through in order to explain why Selena was one of the most evil teenagers you would hope to never meet. We all had our cliques in high school, and I know you know what groups I'm talking about, so I won't waste anyone's time listing them off, but all I'll say is that Selena and people like me from the more subtle crowd were on total opposite ends of the social spectrum. I was the quiet kid with few friends who kept his nose to the ground for the most part, and figured as long as drama doesn't come finding me, then I will not go finding it. Selena, on the other hand, had a rich daddy who was a real estate tycoon, and her lush of a mother inherited money from her father, Selena's grandfather, so she was a typical stay-at-home, do-nothing bitch. While people like me earned friends, Selena surrounded herself with pretenders who were just attracted to her money, like flies drawn to roadkill. But did any of that make her a bad person? No. It's how she took advantage of her status, like most of those kinds of people blindly do. By the time she was in 10th grade, she would come to school in a tight skirt that molded to her perfect figure, which was cut low enough at the neckline to show off enough cleavage that the teachers could make a game out of throwing small pieces of chalk between her breasts from behind their desks. And her shorts were always cut too high, and sometimes you could see the tissues of her ass cheeks peeking out. But of course, no one did anything about it because, aside from his real estate business, Selena's father also had a death grip on the board of directors, so in other words, his little princess could do no wrong. I think the school was also in a scare because a couple years prior to Selena slutting herself up, her parents pressed charges when their flawless angel was suspended for knocking over her ex-boyfriend's food tray into his lap and slapping a bowl of hot corn into his face. Her parents argued that Selena's ex grabbed her ass and she was just defending herself. I don't know what kind of spooky shit her dad pulled, but it doesn't seem anyone could have been bothered to look over their surveillance footage for proof of what happened. It's people like those that make me want to go into a mild stroke when I hear what they can get away with because of their bullshit wealth status. It wasn't an uncommon sight to see some of the guys, mostly jocks, in the hall between classes watch her like the drooling knuckle-draggers they are. At least every other month, she would almost always be accompanied by a new boyfriend who had his arm hung around her like he was a new piece of jewelry for her to show off. In short, she knew what she had, and she used it to her advantage. Selena had raw power over anyone who was naive enough to think they were her friend, and they would do almost anything she asked. Anything, no matter who suffered for it. Rebecca. As dark as to light, Rebecca was the flip side of Selena in every way. A pale, overweight girl with that ever-embarrassing marshmallow figure only some of us can be so blessed with, was one of many who endured routine harassment from the overprivileged filth that polluted Elizabeth Forward High School. Her hair was a dirty blonde, frizzled mess that she could never keep tame, and always sprung up in twists and coils in various places, no matter how many bobby pins she stuck on her untamed scalp, and So many chins that I swear our algebra teacher would use her face for calculation purposes. Even though she tried to be friendly, having a good personality doesn't matter if you're considered the ugly kid in public school. I remember there were times, maybe too many, I would be haunting the hallways, either on my way to the bathroom or just skipping class, and I would see Rebecca walk into the office with her books held tight to her chest and tears dripping off her face. I know it sounds bad, but seeing someone in that kind of state was nothing out of the ordinary, at least back in my time. I don't know how things are for this generation since everything is so PC nowadays, but when I was a kid, that kind of bullying was more or less socially accepted. Despite my recollections of Rebecca, I never really was able to feel much sympathy for her, nor did anyone else. That might make me sound inhuman, but my feelings did eventually change, even if it was too late. Rebecca was the kind of person who everyone just either didn't acknowledge or used her for torment to show off in front of their friends because you're not cool unless you pick on the poor ugly kid, right? Sure, it's all fun and games to make them cry, but when their death becomes a topic on the news and her suicide note blames her actions on the torment you and your friends put her through, then all of a sudden you swear you barely talked to her, or you did it out of peer pressure. Normally, I'd say someone who murders himself over something as petty as bullying, are weak, or doesn't have good enough parents, but considering what happened to Rebecca, I really don't blame her. I remember all of this took place in November because the snow was heavy, and the school didn't normally replace the Thanksgiving decorations until December 1st. I don't know all the details, but what I have heard is that Selena and a couple of her friends cut class early to catch Rebecca in between classes. Selena explained to Rebecca that they decided they feel bad for the way she's been treated, and they feel as if they were starting to become more mature and have begun to regret their actions. Once a month, Selena would have some bullshit party that she would invite all of her preppy friends to at this other, smaller house her father owned but let her use so Selena and her friends didn't interfere with her parents' privacy. Selena's friends must have put up a good act because it didn't take long for them to convince Rebecca to join them for the weekend. You could tell for the rest of that week that something had Rebecca in unusually good spirits because she was actually smiling for once and had been caught a few times daydreaming during class, most likely thinking about the party that would end her life. Friday rolls around and Rebecca had apparently told her mom, according to the news, she wasn't coming home that night because she might as well stay at the school since her and Selena and the rest of her friends were heading straight to the party. I remember when I was on my way to my bus stop, seeing Rebecca talking very animatedly in the school lobby with a couple of Selena's goons, and even one of the guys, Cody, who was the football team's quarterback, was flirting with her. That was the only time I truly felt bad for the naive girl, which brought on an unfamiliar moment for me because I think for the first time I actually felt remorse for the girl. The feeling hit me so hard that my heart skipped a beat, and I became dizzy. I think it might have been that the reality of the situation finally sunk in, and I was looking at someone who may be literally facing their doom. I so badly wanted to run up to Rebecca, slap her in the face, and shake her by the shoulders until she came to her senses, but I was at an age where I felt if something wasn't my business, then it wasn't my responsibility to do anything about it. Little did I know how much I was going to regret my decision the following week. I knew no good was going to become of Rebecca, but if I felt that it would be the last time I or most others would see her, then I may have had a change of heart. My weekend was typical. I spent the majority of my time at home going through Earthbound on my SNES for possibly the 100th time, and my cousin Larry paid me a visit on Sunday. His presence was unexpected but welcomed. Normally, he would call ahead of time to make sure I wasn't too busy for company, so I was a bit concerned to see him suddenly show up on my doorstep with a tweaked-out look in his eyes, concerned that something might be wrong. I invited him in.
Sorry for showing up like this.
he said. I told him, no worries, and asked what the matter was. He had his laptop tucked under his arm and made a dash for my couch, placing the laptop on the coffee table and opening it, all in one fluid motion. I sat next to him and playfully nudged him in the shoulder. So what is it? I asked. Are you that impressed with your gay porn collection? His attention remained on the laptop screen as he brought up Facebook.
Not exactly.
He then logs into his profile, and at the top of his timeline was a video.
I'm guessing you haven't heard.
Heard what? I asked. Without answering, he hits the play button. The video started off with the close-up of a pale face and the sound of laughter, but the camera was so close it was hard to make out who it was at first. Then the laughter was cut into by a shrieking cry. The eyes of the face were pouring tears, and when the camera zoomed out, it was revealed that the owner of the face was a girl tied to a chair in what appeared to be a garage. It took me a moment to process who I was looking at, but it soon became clear I was watching Rebecca. Her face was so pale because it was covered with white spray paint, which had crude makeup job done over it. Her eyes were a horrible mess of tear-streaked eyeshadow, and the red lipstick that was scribbled and smeared on her mouth made her look like something out of a cheap horror movie. Her hair, which was usually an untamed mess, was plastered flat down on her head with what I guessed was excessive amounts of hair products, most likely that glue shit the goth kids used to spike their hair. I would also go into detail about the clothes she was wearing, but unfortunately her shirt was torn off, exposing her large breast, the left one having a large mole near the nipple, and what remained of her shirt hung off her waist. Her pants were also removed, but I couldn't tell for sure if she had any underwear on because her huge gut covered too much to tell the difference. What the hell? I said, the words barely escaping my tightening throat. Rebecca continued to sob uncontrollably, then screamed, "Why are you doing this? I never hurt nobody!" The laughter died down, and that's when I heard a familiar voice.
Don't you want to meet your blind date? I thought you were excited.
It was Cody.
He's in the other room, waiting to see you.
I'll go get him,
piped up a random girl. I saw a brief glimpse of this girl as she entered the adjoining room, and I could tell it was one of Selena's friends, Brandy. All was silent, except for Rebecca's persistent crying. Then a moment later, Brandy's voice shouted from the next room.
Okay, ready?
Just then, the lights went out, and all was pitch black for at least 20 seconds, until Brandy spoke again.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
The lights flashed on, and the whole unseen crowd roared with laughter. Cody was standing by Rebecca with a flesh-colored dildo, one of those large novelty ones, and was gently tapping it against Rebecca's lips. The dildo was fitted with a miniature fedora, and then Cody turned it around to face the camera and held it to the side of Rebecca's face. A smiley face was drawn on it.
We should capture this special moment,
Cody said.
Camera ready,
exclaimed Brandy.
Say, you suck!
The whole crowd, who remained unseen during the video, repeated these words, followed by the flash of a camera. After everybody cheered, some people out of view of the camera threw empty beer cans at Rebecca, while others, who obviously shook full ones, showered her in cheap booze. Her breast became soaking wet, and someone shouted out, "Hey Cody, I dare you to suck up all that shit off of her." Cody was hesitant and laughed while everyone jeered at him and yelled things like, "Don't be a cunt," and "Do it, you pussy." Cody gave in, then grabbed Rebecca's left breast and began licking the beer off. After sucking on her nipple, Cody continued to lick Rebecca's breast, but accidentally made contact with the mole, causing him to gag and run off screen where he could be heard dry heaving. A moment later, Cody came back to Rebecca and gave her a right hook, so hard I could hear her teeth clack together. This made Rebecca abruptly go silent. She just hung her head down. Despite everything else, looking back on it, I think that's what was the most unnerving. The idea of breaking down someone so much that they are left defeated is something only truly horrible people deserve. Even though all of this happened at her party, Selena was nowhere to be found in the footage. The video ends and I sit staring at the screen, wishing I didn't have a stomach at that moment. "Why did you even have this?" I asked my cousin. He explained that he got a friend request from the uploader. None other than Cody, of course, who tagged him and dozens of the others in the post, an obvious attempt to get the video as many views as possible. My cousin assured me he had all intentions of showing this to the police, but he was always nervous around authority figures, even the school janitor for that matter, and would easily develop a stutter when anxious, so his plan was to show me this and go to the police with him. And since I'm always able to keep such a cool head, I told him at this point the right people probably already know about it, or at least will soon, and to just delete the video from his timeline. Even though his intentions were always good, my cousin wasn't always the sharpest hook in the tackle box. He complied, and I told him to take it easy, then asked if he wanted to go to the mall to blow off some steam. So that's what we did with the rest of our weekend. I know that may not have been the best option, and we should have went to someone about this, but at the time I wanted nothing more than to just forget about what I saw as soon as possible and let things take its course. I went to sleep that night with the gruesome images of the video flashing through my head, and woke up feeling unrested and out of place. I knew there was going to be a shitstorm at school about this, and pretty much everything I predicted for that day happened. Some of the students who saw the video didn't waste reporting it, and the police soon got involved. Rebecca was obviously absent from school, and there had been an assembly all of the students were dragged into about bullying and how to take action to stop it. It took me a while, but I noticed Cody wasn't at school either, nor was Brandy. I later found out that the both of them were forced to stay home and were being questioned by the cops since they were the only ones in the video, other than Rebecca, who could be identified. The principal had a few of us scared shitless when he went on a rant about bullying and how ruthless some of us can be. You could hear it in his voice that he was beyond pissed. It had the special kind of waver only people who are truly angry get. The kind of tone that makes you nervous and puts you in fight or flight mode, because you're almost certain the other is the raging beast before you, is ready to kill. While the principal went on his tangent, I did see someone in the auditorium who, more than anyone, had no right to be there. Selena was sitting with her little group of friends, fucking around on her phone, if not whispering jokes and giggling with those around her. Rumor has it that Selena claimed to have gone out to pick up a few things she forgot for the party, and when she got back, she was told by the others that Rebecca got nervous and decided to leave. The subject of Rebecca was a big topic in the lunchroom, but anyone who was overheard by school staff were warned to drop the subject or go to the office and face a week of detention, which some of them eventually did. On the following Tuesday, the steam seemed to have thinned out a bit, and things felt like they were falling back into their monotonous rhythm. But that afternoon, after dinner, my cousin texted me with a disturbing picture. The image was of a girl with a shaved head, which some missed strands of hair dangled from, who hung herself by a tree at my school's bus stop. I could see she tried to clean her face off, but remnants of the white spray paint remained, accompanied by a new purple color on her cheekbone where Cody hit her. I asked my cousin how he got this pic, and he told me she was found there when the bus dropped him and a few others off after school. I was disgusted. My cousin took a picture like the rest of those disrespectful idiots would, and looked at the photo again. I then noticed there was something tied to a string around her neck, which was a tablet which was opened to the page of her suicide note, which read, "I know I wasn't pretty, and I know I wasn't popular, but I was always kind to others, and I was still a human being, but no matter how hard I tried to stay out of trouble, people always caused it for me. People always made me feel like I didn't belong on this planet. I may not have been beauty or money, but always tried to keep a kind heart. And if that's not good enough for me to be accepted, then I see no purpose in my existence. P.S. I know you tried, Mommy, but I decided last night that I had enough of seeing you passed out on the couch, smelling like that cheap junk you always buy, and seeing you like that when I got home last night, and you not being able to listen to me is what helped me make up my mind. But I still love you. Goodbye." By the time I finished reading this, I realized I was crying. After collecting myself and my vision cleared, I looked at the picture again and saw something scribbled at the bottom of the page in larger, different handwriting.
"But you're still ugly."
The exclamation point was dotted with a smiley face.